Welcome back. All right, today we're jumping into a really powerful idea from As a Man Thinketh. We're talking about the direct line between what's going on in your head and the life you're actually living.
So let's just start with a quick question. Do you ever feel kind of stuck in a loop? Facing the same challenges again and again, whether it's at work, in your relationships, maybe even with your own habits? Well, if that sounds familiar, you're definitely not alone. And there's a reason for it.
You see, that feeling of being stuck, James Allen would say it's not random at all. It's actually the result of these hidden thought patterns we all have. So today, in this explainer, we're going to unpack a framework that, honestly, puts you right back in the driver's seat.
Okay, so Alan's main idea is, well, it's pretty simple on the surface, but it's also really profound. He says that our outer world, everything around us, is a direct reflection of our inner world. Let's dig into what that actually means.
He makes the case that there's this unbreakable, almost lawful connection between them. Think about it. Every single action, every habit you have, and yeah, eventually every single condition in your life, it all springs from these little seeds of thought that we plant and water in our own minds.
And this is where his garden metaphor is just so perfect. This isn't about blame, not at all. It's all about cultivation. See, if you're not intentionally planting good stuff, positive, constructive thoughts, then it's only natural that weeds of doubt and fear are going to find their way in and take over. The big takeaway here is that the garden is always growing something, one way or another.
And this next point is absolutely crucial. A tough situation doesn't create a flaw in you, it just reveals a thought pattern that was already hanging out in there. So in a way, your circumstances are like a mirror, just showing you what's going on inside your own head.
This is why just, wanting something, it's not enough. Allen points out that our random wishes, they might not come true. But our deepest, most dominant thoughts, they always find a way to become real. So when you boil it all down, we don't attract what we want, we attract what we are, which is really just the sum total of our thinking.
So, the big question is, how does an invisible thought turn into a solid, real-world situation? Well, James Allen gives us a super clear, practical chain of events that explains exactly how it happens.
All right, so here's how it all works. It always starts with just a single thought, right? That thought then sparks a choice or an action. Now, if you repeat that action enough times, boom, it becomes a habit. And that habit, when you play it out over time, hardens into your actual life circumstances.
And Allen is really clear on this point. You can't keep a thought secret forever. It's just not possible. Every single thought is on a one-way trip to expressing itself, first as a habit and then as a real, tangible part of your life. They're basically destined to show up for everyone to see.
Okay, let's make this even more real. How does this whole chain reaction actually play out in everyday life? Let's look at a few examples.
Think about your career. If you've got this nagging thought that you're always being overlooked, what happens? You start developing habits of just doing the bare minimum. And guess what? That solidifies into the circumstance of, being overlooked. It's a cycle. But if you shift your inner identity to I'm someone who takes real pride in my work, that changes your actions completely. And that, in turn, changes your opportunities.
Or how about relationships? A deep fear of conflict can easily turn into a habit of just people-pleasing all the time. And the result of that? You end up in situations where you feel totally taken for granted. On the flip side, an intentional thought like, I communicate clearly and kindly, builds totally different habits and, you guessed it, much healthier outcomes.
And this is huge for personal habits. If you believe I'm just not a motivated person, guess what? That becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. But if you switch your focus to an identity of just being consistent, even with super tiny actions, that's what builds the momentum you need for real, lasting change.
So look, knowing all this is one thing, but actually applying it, that's everything. So here's a simple little practice you can use to start, tending to the garden of your mind, starting today.
We can call this a little circumstance reset. It's super simple. First step, just identify one single circumstance in your life that's really frustrating you. Step 2, trace it backwards. What's the habit that feeds it? And what's the root thought that feeds that habit? And then, step 3, consciously choose and write down a new alternative thought to practice every time that old one pops up.
Allen's advice here is brilliant. He says we should stop fighting against our circumstances. Instead, we should start using them as tools, as aids for our own progress. They show us exactly where we need to do our mental work. So, when it all comes down to it, The message here is that we have so much more power than we usually think. Our mind, it's like a loom. And with that loom, we are constantly weaving both our character and our circumstances, one thread at a time.
And James Allen leaves us with this really powerful idea of self-liberation. Think about it. The very same tools that can trap us, our thoughts and our actions, are the exact same ones that can set us free.
All right, so to wrap things up, we've seen that undeniable link between our inner world and our outer world. We've walked through that four-step chain that turns a simple thought into a concrete reality. And most importantly, we've established that our real power, it lies in choosing our thoughts.
Thanks so much for joining me for this one. In our next explainer, we're going to build on this foundation and explore Allen's amazing ideas on how our thoughts connect directly with our purpose. So make sure you subscribe and definitely check out the full As a Man Thinketh playlist to continue on this journey with us.